Because I have had plenty of sex that like we start, we stop, we like play a little bit, we like get distracted. Like I've had sex that like didn't feel good, you know? Like climax isn't just like you win, you've done it, sex is over, you were good at it. Like climax is just one thing that can happen during sex, you know? So it's like not an indicator of good. It is just something that happens. Welcome to the Chill Polyamory Patreon only live chat, where the first Sunday of every month, I welcome all of my paid patrons to come and hang out and ask me whatever you want about non-monogamy, polyamory, life in general, and I'll offer feedback based on my 13 years of experience. If you're watching this on YouTube afterwards and you'd like to join us next time, you can ask a question specific to your situation for a fraction of the price of a one-on-one session. You can go to patreon.com/chillpolyamory. I think the link is going to be here. And yeah, I suggest doing it on web browser and not on the app, because the app will add a markup fee. But if you would like to have a one-on-one chat, you can do that at chillpolyamory.com. Alrighty, let's get started. First question. I matched with someone who's cute, who's also non-monogamous and very sweet in texts. However, we've planned to meet up 3 times and she canceled last minute twice while I was in the middle of getting ready for the date. Oh, that sucks. And once she canceled while I was already at the bar waiting for her. No. She has a lot going on, so I want to give grace, but I'm wondering if you think this is a big enough red flag to stop trying. I mean, that sucks. I just feel like that's not... regardless of what's going on, I feel like that's not respectful of your time, you know? So usually when people ask is this a big enough red flag that I should leave, a lot of times that question doesn't even occur to us unless on some level it is a big enough red flag for you, you know? Like red flags are always relative to people, but that's good to notice. You know, ghosting you or like canceling last minute once could be an outlier. Twice to me might be a red flag in terms of like reliability. I'm not going to judge the person if they have stuff going on. It just means like maybe it's not going to be a fun time for me to keep trying to hang out with you. But 3 times is a pattern, and patterns tend to repeat, you know, unless you do a lot of like big radical change over a long, you know, extended time. So either way, it sucks to go through that. And I think ghosting kind of gets normalized when you don't have mutual friends anyway. You know, it doesn't mean it's okay. It just means people get comfortable doing it because they don't have like fallout. Nobody that they know or care about is reflecting back to them that sucks. So people get cold feet and nerves and anxiety, and I do get that. Or maybe this person's not at capacity and they're like not admitting that to themselves. Sometimes people just go on these dating apps just for the hit of dopamine, and they actually can't hook up, you know, or they're grieving a breakup and they want to feel a little bit better. Like sometimes people use these apps in a way that's not actually intended to like get to know you, you know? People aren't always a good judge of when they're available. Sometimes people do this also in a non-monogamous setting. Again, I'm not saying this about this person, but when they're not actually polyamorous or non-monogamous, sometimes people will like flirt with the idea of cheating, and being on the app, they're actually going behind their partner's back, and then they set up a date and then they chicken out, you know? That unfortunately also happens. Again, I'm not saying it about that person, but there's a million reasons why that can happen. But if it keeps happening, disrespect of time says a lot to me about like how much a person values your time, you know, literally. Like people don't usually throw away things that they think are valuable, is kind of how I see it, you know. And B, it tells me how much they even like think of your time at all, like how much you occur to them. You know, it might not be malicious, like whatever. They might not be thinking of it, and that also is uncool in my opinion. You know, I'm just imagining you like getting ready, like going through however long it takes for you to get ready, you know, picking the right outfit that makes you feel good in your body, like putting on makeup or hair products or whatever, the transport. In some cities, it takes like an hour to get to a place, and then sitting at the bar looking around and there's no one. And then like, so every time the door opens, you're like looking at it. Is this the person? Like that experience. The person is not thinking about all that. They just text you when you did all of that and they say, never mind, I'm not coming. Like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like we can have empathy for whatever happened, to a point, if it's a pattern again. Yeah. I can have empathy and still hate what happened and still feel like hurt by what happened, because then either like maybe you maybe you rejected other plans that you could have had that night, so that sucks. Or maybe you're just going home sad, alone, taking off the nice outfit, undoing like the makeup or the hair. You know what I mean? Like that too is part of the experience. And if they're not like at least naming that and trying to like make up for that in some way, then I think that's good to know. I want somebody who's really going to proactively think about how what they do or don't do is having a ripple effect on the people around them. So how consumed with their own experience they might be, how unavailable they might be. It's kind of a long way of saying, like, I don't know, I wouldn't go out with that person again or try again. But, you can decide if texting back and forth was really that fun. Like, you can decide when it stops feeling worth it to you. Good luck. I do hope that you start to have better luck, with who you connect with, because I want you to be with someone who's so excited to meet with you and able to meet with you. Let's see, a question in the chat. The context is we've been together for 3 years and feeling more confident navigating non-monogamy. However, he's a steady person and I'm quite anxious, and it's something I'm working on in therapy, but I feel badly that I have so many more needs than he does. My nervous system requires more notice before dates, more reassurances, and he shows me support and patience, but I know deep down he hopes I'll be able to show him the same flexibility that he shows me. So any advice for that? Yeah, I mean, I think this is common. Like, a lot of times different points of non-monogamy will like bother people in different ways, and sometimes the beginning, the unknown, the change of it is more destabilizing for one person than another for a myriad of reasons. And that doesn't mean that that it would always be that way. Like, there are plenty of times where that dynamic could even flip, and something that you feel very stable or secure about, whatever that is, could be, stressful or anxiety producing to the partner. And so I wouldn't want it to be seen as like, I'm just bad at this and it's so easy for them. We each have different buttons that set us off. And I think it's good to try to let go of comparison anyway. But if the brain is comparing, it's like, it's kind of measuring apples and oranges. You can measure against your own self, so you said that you've noticed improvement, or you've noticed change in whatever way that change looks for you. So that's great to celebrate, to be like, oh, cool, I calmed down much faster this time, or I didn't spiral in the same way, then that's good information that maybe you're doing something right, in terms of getting your own needs met in addition to his support and care. Him? Yeah, he said he. I actually have a short video about this where I relate, I had that, and it was even just a few years ago, and it was much briefer than in the beginning. In the beginning, I had it a lot, but it can come back, and a partner wanted to go out with someone, and I was feeling overwhelmed and stressed and low bandwidth, and I immediately was like, no change, bad, and freaked out, and then felt a lot of guilt about it because why it's so easy for you. And I think there's a self-acceptance, there's a pursuit of self-acceptance and a self-love and a self-care to whatever part of you is reacting to that. I imagine is probably there for a reason, and loving on yourself for that, the way that your partner loves on you, Of course you would feel anxious and upset because XYZ, of course that would be scary because of this particular trauma. Of course, you might be imagining the worst case scenario because you were cheated on and he wasn't, or whatever it is, context, and that was the same for me, is that my partner didn't have the same kind of trauma that I did. And so had different trauma triggers, And so I think a lot of tolerating the in between, tolerating the growth process between where you are now and how you are continuing to change, we can be really impatient. And I think have maybe a picture of what arrival looks like. I don't know if that's your experience of I'm not there yet. Well, where is there? What is there? I think that can be helpful to imagine, but noticing the small wins. So, if your partner ever feels like he's being stretched a little too thin, or he's starting to build a resentment, or if it's ever like wearing down your connection to be relying on him in a certain way, then continuing to expand your support network, you're here, you're chatting with other people, right? Like, then maybe you don't rely on him as much in that way, right? You can rely on other people. But as long as agreements don't get broken, as long as your fear doesn't come true, right? If you were really anxious and then he went and cheated on you, then yeah, your anxiety was trying to warn you of a real danger. You know what I mean? So like, he plays a part in it too, of like, can we not have whatever the fear is come true, whatever the cycle is, not repeat? And with enough time of it being okay, it'll feel okay, So that's what we do. We trust. It's a leap of faith. But sometimes people will ask like, oh, if you get such trauma responses, why do it? Why put yourself through it? And I'm like, I don't want my trauma to keep taking things from me. Like I love this way. I want to live this way. And I just don't want it to keep ruling my life, And in a sense, sometimes it's kind of nice when what upsets you is not what upsets them. So you're not upset at the same time, That can be kind of nice. Okay, next question that was emailed to me. My question is, how do we move forward when there is a difference in approach for parties involved? My fiance, our boyfriend, and I all nest together, dating since September. I have a more relationship anarchist approach where I would describe my partners as polyfidelitous. By the way, if anybody is listening and doesn't know what these terms mean, relationship anarchy is sort of like anti-hierarchical, where you don't really put romance as above friendship. You're really trying to love on everybody in proportion to how much you want to. Every relationship is decided based on the people within them, not the box that they're in. You try and let go of putting people in boxes. You're still close to people if you want to be, But polyfidelitous is you are in a relationship with more than one person and it's closed to you. Or I'm in a triad, this person's saying I'm in a triad and I don't want to date anybody else, So I've heard some people say it's monogamous polyamory. I'm like, close, but that's weird. It's polyfidelity. We have another word for a reason. Anyway, back to the question. With our polycule being newer, it's taking a minute to figure out our dynamic and boundaries. I'm not actively dating and my partners are seemingly not interested in dating themselves, but because I approach non-monogamy from an RA perspective, it's stifling to say that every new person I meet is quote unquote just a friend. So this is where the RA of friends are not lesser than romantic partners comes in, because sometimes people will say, oh, they're just a friend, or can you just be friends with them? Let's just be friends. And that implies that friends are less close, you don't have sex, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Whereas I have sex with my friends, I'm very close with my friends, and we're not in romantic relationship building anything together. Sorry, I'm so sorry to this question asker. I keep interrupting your question. But back to the question. My partners want to wait until we've developed our current dynamic, basically wait until they're both more comfortable before we open up and date. But TLDR, what does a relationship anarchist do when the polycule wants them to change their approach to relating based on the current dynamic? Well, it's not working for you. It sounds like it's distressing you and you're upset about it, and especially upset that it was not a discussion, it was an assumption. That's at the heart of RA. We discuss everything. No one outside of a relationship can tell that relationship what it's going to be. So if you meet someone and someone over here is saying they need to be just a friend, well, that's antithetical to what you normally do. And I don't know how possible it is to, so I was going to say, I don't know how possible it is to change the way you relate to people, but asterisk to that, I relate to people in a relationship anarchistic way. I always have. It feels really natural. It feels really normal. And I used to be incredibly scared. And so I had a lot of controlling stuff going on. And I told myself I wanted hierarchy for safety. My motives were not based on I just am monogamous. No, once I was able to remove all the blocks, I got to my core way of how I relate to people. So I don't know if that core way of how you relate to people is necessarily able to change once you get to it, And so if that's where you are, if that's if you know that about yourself, then that could that build resentment? I guess that's a question, is could that build resentment? Could that build conflict with you? And also, it's so tricky because what if you call somebody a friend and you hang out with them all the time, and the minute that things open, you jump into a relationship with them, like a romantic relationship, and then maybe your partner's like, oh, so were you actually just friends this whole time? You know, it's like, it's a little tricky because even if they get what they want, like, will it actually make them feel safe? Like, at some point, they got to go through the discomfort of their partner's gonna get close with other people, you know? And so it kind of delays it, which if you're okay with delaying it, like, you can pick, if all of the options are like, I hate all of these choices, you can pick whichever lesser evil feels right to you, including pushing back on them if that's the one that you want to do. So I would ask, what are they scared of, individually and within the triad? You know, each of your duos with them, what's scary, what's maybe got to be worked on, what conflicts need to be resolved, what feels shaky ground still, sort of to assess that. And then within the triad, like, what is safety? Is safety that every Thursday, the three of us, we do this ritual? You know, every Thursday, the three of us are here eating dinner together and watching a movie. You know what I mean? It's like, when people imagine we are safe, what does that mean? And for me, safety is usually in patterns of behavior of like, oh, you have repeatedly brought things up proactively. You've been like, oh, hey, just heads up, I had the thought of opening up a dating profile, so I'm probably going to do that. If you see me scrolling on a dating profile, I didn't want you to think I was like hiding that from you, for example. So when somebody is proactively thinking about how their actions will affect me and they're proactively bringing shit up, then I trust them. And so I need that over and over and over in order to trust that that pattern will continue. And so sometimes that's it, of like, if trust has been broken between you, like, what pattern changes are they wanting? Like, what does stability look like? And sometimes people will ask for something to be closed because they feel like they're not ready. What does ready look like? You know, what would that be? You know, what are they imagining points A and B? Like, what's the path from one to the other, you know? Or is it just like wanting to kick the can down the road and they don't really want, like, they want a closed triad, you know? Like, and a closed triad only works if everybody wants it, and it sounds like you don't want that. So that wouldn't be sustainable. Just like if you were in a monogamous relationship, it wouldn't be sustainable, you know? So if you can't say yes to this, what could you do to still remind them that they're safe and loved? And, you know, that could look a lot of ways. Consistency with them, making sure that your commitments around the house, you all live together, making sure that that doesn't get dropped. Like, what are they scared is going to happen? And then how can that not happen? Yeah, it's really a practice of showing that this new person or people will not harm your existing relationship. It could change it. It probably will change it, but that doesn't mean that it's harmful. You know, that doesn't mean it's broken or lesser. And that's the scary part. And that's when a lot of grasps for control will happen, is when people are really scared. So can you talk about what's scary and what could help? And go to the next question that was emailed to me. God. Have you been watching the PolyFamily show? If yes, what do you think? Okay, have people been seeing this? Have you watched this at all? So, PolyFamily is a closed quad, and they're all raising kids together, and they have Instagram accounts about that. And we're mutuals, I think, like, just because we make polyamory content, and I saw their profile like 4 or 5 years ago or something, and I've never talked to them. A comment in the chat is, I watched a blazing critique of the show, but I also follow the family, and they're way cooler than they were portrayed. That's an interesting thing to note. So, I used to work in reality TV. Briefly, because it was terrible. I had like a career of editing for film and TV from my like late teens to early mid 20s. And I was like, it was around like the writer's strike time, like 07, 08. And so there was a boom of reality TV. And if you wanted work in editing, I was not part of any unions or anything, to pay the bills, I got on this show called My Big Fat Redneck Wedding. It was as gross and exploitative as you think it is, and really like mocking in like poverty. But what had happened was I had slammed on my desk this folder, this thick, of like, here are the characters of the people. Like, this is one section is who's the villain, who's the victim, who's like the funny one, and edit accordingly, like very explicitly. So the villain, well, if they're ever soft, if they're ever nice, if they ever say sorry even, cut it, does not go into the final product, right? Fucking awful. And the people don't know. They sign an NDA. I mean, to my knowledge, everybody signs stuff up front saying like, you'll be edited however we want, and you agree to that, and you won't sue. So in that book, that was part of it, is like, who is what character. And then other parts of it were like, it was a production book that had scripts, lines. And everybody knows that reality TV is fake. But when I tell you that like during the confessionals, a producer is there saying, say this line. No, do another take of it. Because like, can you say it more emotional? Can you get more mad about it? Literally, the words coming out of their mouths are often pre-written to be like a snappy one-liner to close out the episode or whatever. And people will, like, the producers are very persuasive and they'll be like, oh, it's so funny. Oh, you look great today. Like they will jazz you up or piss you off, or they'll be like, did you hear what they were saying? Yeah, like you should add that to your confessional. They're there stirring the fucking pot, because that's drama. And it sucks. It sucks. And people often leave a show really feeling hurt by how they were portrayed. And it doesn't mean that people don't do some of the stuff. Literally, if you see them do something, they've done it. But I don't know if y'all know what the Kuleshov effect is. I might literally make a video for YouTube about this, frankly, about why I don't really want to cover reality TV, period. Because the Kuleshov effect is that if you take the same reaction shot and then you put it with an image, and then you go back to the reaction shot, depending on what this second image is, will change what you think about their reaction. So, meaning, if I'm just like this, then you cut to a baby. Maybe you think I'm thinking the baby's cute, If instead you cut to an apple, maybe you think I'm hungry or zoning out because I haven't eaten yet. What am I focusing on? In this narrative, and you cut back to the reaction shot, and now you've changed what people think my reaction is, and you change the mood and the moment of the scene. And what editors are told to do is go look for reaction shots. So if somebody's like telling a joke, and then everybody's like, oh, that's kind of funny, but they want that moment to be tense, they'll cut the reaction of people saying, oh, it's kind of funny, and they'll go to a totally different part of the day when they were just sitting there on their phones bored. And then the person will tell the joke and they'll put just sitting on their phones bored. And now suddenly those people are done with this person. This person isn't funny. This shit is what reality TV is. And I'm not shaming you if you like reality TV as like a way to shut your brain off, or it's your guilty pleasure. I'm not here to shame that. I'm here to say, like, look at it critically as fucking fake, as lies. It's lies. It's always lies. So coming back to the question about PolyFamily, they now have this TLC show, which huge fucking red flag, frankly. TLC is just in the business of exploiting people. They did that Honey Boo Boo show. They did the 19 Kids and Counting show. The, what's her name? The John and Kate +8 show. They look for people to exploit. And so now they've got this quad with all their kids, which I also feel some type of way about including kids in reality TV, period, and social media. But I'm not going to get into that here. I just don't know what I could trust. If somebody says a shitty comment, maybe they really said that shitty comment, but I don't know what was said prior, because again, what was said prior could totally be changed. Maybe someone was shitty and then someone was shitty back, but they erased the first one, And so now it just looks like this guy's a dick, Like, that I can't trust any of it. So I don't like to review reality TV because it is fiction, but it's real people. So I like to use fictional examples because if they're messy, I know it, like everyone who's watching it understands it's a script. Everyone understands those actors are not those same people. But on the reality, like any reality show, I have no idea what I can believe. So I don't know anything about this family. There have been like accusations going around on Reddit about the man who's like the redhead, he's got a bald head. Accusations that he like abandoned his former family and other kids, and that he like gets fired from jobs for being inappropriate with people. But it's just like random accounts on Reddit who were recently created accounts from like 10 or 12 days ago. So I'm like, well, who's behind that account? Again, it's not to say that's all false. It's to say I'm not taking that at face value, and I don't take the shows at face value. So not going to watch it, frankly. Or if I watch it, it will be to illustrate everything I just said. And I might put that in a video. Side note, do y'all remember that Cash Me Outside girl? She was like 13 and she went on Dr. Phil. I wound up liking her briefly. She then went on to do a rap career, and I was like, not touching that. It was like not a good look. And she was also like 14, and yeah, so whatever. But she came out against like the troubled teen industry because she was shipped off to a really abusive, like, place for troubled kids. And the cult that I wound up staying in for 6 years was adjacent to that, was like part of the troubled teen community. Come live with us, you're not in good shape, come live with us. So like I became a fan when like her and Paris Hilton put some spotlight on that. But she said that before she went out on Dr. Phil, that at 13 years old, the producers were telling her to like get mad, throw things. Like, it's okay if you can really show your true feelings. Don't be afraid to do this, do that. They were giving her ideas. They were telling her to be melodramatic and to have some big reaction at 13 years old. So they're not even above doing this to children. So when there's children on the show, who fucking knows? Did someone grab this little 5-year-old's ear and be like, mommy doesn't like you, and now the kid is like acting weird all day, and they like, so I don't know. I could rant forever. It's not related to polyamory, but it is related to like critical media consumption, media literacy basically, but like really not taking things in about a polyamorous family as if that is accurate, because you've got an unreliable narrator, for sure, to say the least. Real quick, at the midway point, if you want examples of polyamory on screen, my film and TV channel is just Chill Polyamory, and that is where I look at that. So if you haven't seen the last video, it is 25 years of polyamory in cartoons. If you want, you can watch that here. And I have my non-monogamy storytelling podcast. If you want true stories about non-monogamy in practice, it's called I Could Never. And we just wrapped season 2. We're in production of season 3, so you can get it on all of the podcast platforms. Okay, next question in the chat. What wisdom and tips can you offer regarding reconnection rituals after my partner has overnights with people? I struggle with this even after a couple years. More context, reconnecting was especially hard after my meta spent the weekend at our shared home. My meta and I are both women, and I felt a deep terror around being homeless and replaced in the wife role. I'm at a precipice of accepting her as another life partner, and it's really hard. So yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting thing to notice about yourself, of like imagining this wife role. Is that something that you're wanting to look at a little bit more? Because I think the roles that we imagine as being possible can determine a lot of what our reactions to a situation are. Like if we think, husband, wife, that is a fixed way of being, like maybe intellectually it's been challenged, but when there's that feeling of like, so that sometimes people will say, well, I'm really anxious, but at least I'm the wife, right? Like sometimes people will rely on a role or a structure as like a means of things making sense and things feeling secure. And sometimes people have like 2 people that they would consider wives, even if not legally, and like there are other shapes that this can look. And also the optics aren't the same. Someone sleeping in your home, or if someone were to do some of the like domestic work as a nice little thing around the home, like she's not like taking your spot, you know? So like what makes up being the wife, if that is a role you want to have? I'm not saying it's bad to have roles. I think it's good to understand why we're picking them, what we're naming them, like what is a wife? Not to be obtuse, but just like, does it mean literally I am in the home most of the time, or I have property with them, or I am the parent of children? What does that mean? And when there's clarity on like what that is to us, then there also can be some good info there of like what might be upsetting, what might be scary. And so then you can sort of preemptively plan for extra care. Oh, you know, I know this about me now, that anything that looks domestic, you know, so if you were to hang out for 3 days, maybe if you were hanging out for 3 days just chilling around at their place, you know, folding laundry together, maybe that would upset me more than if you went on an adventure in another country for 3 days, for example, you know, of just like knowing yourself and what could set off fears, and then saying, I might need a little extra help around that. Boosting your support system around those times, that can be helpful. But yeah, and then if in naming all of this, you're like, actually, I don't need that, or actually, that's stupid. It would be great if someone did domestic work and I could chill and take a nap. You know what I mean? Like if in doing that, you start to have realizations, then look at that, you know? I think it's all about like, why are we assigning things to ourselves and each other? Why are we taking on certain roles or labels? And is it coming from like excitement and it feels right, and this is what I want, or this is what I want wife to look like, right? Is it coming from there, or is it coming from like, that's what you should do? Your question was about reconnection rituals after your partner has overnights. So there's not like a universally applicable thing that makes people feel better. I think like, what is a reconnection ritual intended to do? Maybe that's a good question. What's the goal of that? So is the goal to remind you that you're safe? Or like, is the goal to remind you that you're number one? You know what I mean? Like what, like even subconsciously, what are you trying to get out of the reconnection ritual? Is it that you miss this person and you want to be reminded that you still have a connection with them? You know, there's a lot of reasons we want to reconnect. And I do think that like, especially during firsts, but during like when a partner goes out and comes back and we still connect with them, I think that that's great. I think it's a great reminder, not just in practice, but also like physically, it can be a good reminder that what just happened isn't a threat, you know, that you're still getting that care and that love. So for some people it's physical. Sometimes people want to be held. Sometimes people like to be like cooked for, or like something that is like a generous, loving thing that can be agreed on. Sometimes people want the entire afternoon to be free if possible, so that there's room for long talks, you know? Sometimes people like, yeah, want to go on their own adventure. You just went out on an adventure, like I'm feeling a little bit of FOMO, like can we go somewhere cute afterwards, you know, to remind me that I can be the fun one too. So it's not about comparison or competition at all. If you notice that, like try not to do tit for tat. As I'm saying it, I'm like, I don't want it to be interpreted that way of like, they get one, so I get one. Not that. Just if you're noticing like, oh, I have FOMO, that's telling me I want to do something fun with you. What's fun that we could do? Okay, there was a follow-up. I struggle even to look my partner in the eye. So a lot of reconnection for me has to be really indirect and slow. Perfect. That's good extra information to know about yourself, right? Whatever it is that is changing, that feels threatening, you know, it might come along with, like you're saying, struggling to look at your partner in the eyes afterwards. Some people feel even disgust afterwards, or they want to be alone. Some people, want to be held. That's the thing. It really depends on your reaction. So if slowness is helpful, if patience, if, just sitting with your partner is helpful, like the lack of expectation for you to look at them in the eye, like that all is decided on based on what you notice feels good or doesn't feel good. So what feels good, what doesn't feel good. That's what I mean when I say there's not a universal answer, but it can be informed by what you know about yourself. So what connects you and your partner? What is grounding? What is reassuring, basically? Next question that was emailed to me. I started dating someone last December. They were very outgoing, passionate, and loving in the first 2 months when we met, and we fell in love and started to develop a relationship. But after a sudden breakup of theirs with their long-term partner of many years, they unexpectedly turned avoidant and became relationship anarchists and don't want to commit to any relationship right now. We de-escalated to quote-unquote dating. I'm wondering what I can do to support him, but also soothe my anxiety. Became relationship anarchist and doesn't want to commit to any relationship right now. It could just be how the sentence was phrased, but is that being like framed as the definition of relationship anarchy? Because like that ain't what that is, you know? Benefit of the doubt, it might just be like a semantics thing of how the sentence was framed. Because you can be an anarchist and like have no bandwidth and not really want to, you know, be intertwined with anybody. Solo polyamorous people don't want to be intertwined like in perpetuity, you know, but that doesn't mean they're not committed. Like it's just a different definition of commitment. Like sometimes people feel very emotionally committed or they're very committed to a schedule and they're not like living with you or, you know, moving around the country with you or whatever. Like it doesn't have the traditional definition of like committed. So all that to say, like, if relationship anarchy is being used as like, I just want to put you at arm's length right now, I would, like, you have the option to challenge that or question that, because sometimes people will misunderstand a term and then reach for it as a justification for why they're doing something. And if something they're doing is feeling hurtful to you and they say, well, you know, I'm just RA, I'm like, is that a conversation ender? Is it being used as like, you can't challenge me because this is just one of the ways you can be polyamorous? Like, I don't know how that's being used. You said you de-escalated to dating now and after a sudden breakup of their long-term partner for many years. When you say they unexpectedly turned very avoidant, that also tells me that, you know, it's very disruptive, whatever this breakup is, you know. So I don't know if they're feeling grief. I don't know if they're feeling, you know, like sort of shy of, it would take me a long time to trust, you know, getting a bit deeper with anybody right now because I got deeper and I trusted and my heart was broken. Like, again, not in their head. So take only what lands and the rest of it is not for you. It might be for someone else who's listening. But yeah, I think, is he wanting to like share a little bit more about what's going on for him? Is he able to put words to that? Sometimes understanding the emotional state of grief or anxiety or the fear, like sometimes that can also add context in terms of like feeling less rejected sometimes for people. But if you're calling your relationship de-escalated to just dating, what is just dating? I guess that's another labels question. What does dating mean? You know, are you, it implied in that is, do not imagine a future with me, you know, is that implied in that? You know, do not expect that of me, assume it's not going to happen, don't ask me, what are we? Is that all wrapped up in the we're just dating, you know, phrase? I don't know. Maybe he doesn't know, but if you're agreeing to just dating, what are you agreeing to, you know? And sometimes people have assumptions about sort of like terms and conditions that come along with a label, and you could very much not be on the same page. Sometimes people see just dating as like a temporary, less close, you know, spending time together, but temporary being the key word. Sometimes people see dating very much as a means to an end to later be back and committed. And so is some part of you hoping for that or expecting that and agreeing to just dating because you're assuming it will be able to get deeper in the future. And like, so if one person were to be imagining like, I just want to spend time with you and please don't imagine a future with me, and the other person is saying, well, I'll spend time with you briefly and be sad about that as long as we have a future eventually. Like if those are in each other's minds, but you're not talking about it, it's really going to lead to some heartache and heartbreak. So just as an example of not being on the same page. Yeah, I think that is like every time someone is like, how do I ask, what are we, you know, what do you do when you let go of the relationship escalator? It's like, well, what are you literally going to do with each other? How often do you see each other? What kind of hangouts? Like, are you not going to romantic restaurants? You know what I mean? Like, is that part of just dating or just casual? Like, what are you literally doing or not doing together? And are you not saying I love you? You know, are you not saying certain phrases that feel like too, you know, close? So that's helpful just in terms of what, like, not, yeah, like staying within the bounds of what you both agreed. It helps to know what you're both agreeing to in that sense. So very much in a practical everyday, but also in terms of like future tripping and imagining your expectations. What should your expectations be? And if somebody says, don't expect anything, I can't promise that, believe them, you know, unfortunately. I usually take a maybe or a one day as a no, personally. You know, that is helpful to me because I do well with definitive answers on stuff. And so when someone's like, oh yeah, maybe I'll do this one day, I assume that's not happening unless I start seeing movements towards that happening. You know, and I've been hurt a lot of times with people who say like one day or not right now, but maybe. And then I never see any change in that direction, but I still stick it out because I assume, you know, and I'm still like waiting. I had that with a partner that I was like gonna live with eventually. He was gonna move to my city eventually. And then 2 years passed and there was always something. Oh, I'm not ready right now. Oh, I'm going through a lot. Oh, this opportunity came up. I'm going to stick around. Like that, a version of that can happen with the like, I don't want to be close right now. Like this is going on for me and that's going on for me. It's valid to not want to be close, you know, like he has every right to do that. Sounds like he's going through a lot. And if any kind of interacting with him is consistently upsetting, then maybe that kind of interacting isn't working for you. And what might work for you? You know? But personally, when I started to change my mindset and I was like, I'm going to decide I'm not expecting anything of you, then even just that change of my headspace kind of made it a little easier to decide I'm not gonna go on that hiking trip with you because that might make me feel some type of way. And we've agreed I'm not trying to feel that type of way. You know what I mean? It's like, so de-escalating, quote unquote, also includes like what your needs are and what's sustainable for you. One person might ask for it, but then you get to weigh in on what you can and can't do in that case, you know? And there might be grief there for you, you know, and that would make sense and that would be fair. Sometimes people also have anger at the meta. Oh, you two broke up and now I suffer. So if you feel that way, that is a common feeling. And don't judge any of your feelings, just like look at them and name them. But you're allowed to need things too. And if he cannot give them, then he cannot give them. And waiting for him to be able to give them, like, are you preparing to break your own heart? You know, maybe you're not waiting, you know, I don't know what's in your mind, but yeah. Change can be stressful, but if it really feels like I can't keep doing this, I will be not okay if this is the new normal, then don't ignore that, you know? Okay, next question in the chat. Another question from me. Any advice on navigating gaps in ability to experience pleasure between me and my partner? Context, my partner experiences pleasure very easily. I really enjoy our sexual experiences and those I have with others, but I have a difficult relationship to climaxing. It's something that's only possible with a sex toy, and I hate that. He can make his other partner orgasm, but can't do the same with me. So partially it's my anxiety and also because of SSRIs. I mean, yeah, like medical, like anything medical that is like fucking with the chemicals in your body or your hormones, like definitely notice that. You know, sometimes people will spiral and be like, I need to work on myself, when really like just chemically it makes sense that you're having a certain reaction. So I'm glad that you're factoring that in terms of like not seeing it as maybe even something you have control of while you're on SSRIs to a degree. You know, I imagine there's like a confluence of things. You said you have a difficult relationship with climaxing, and that stands out to me because I've not really heard it described like that, a relationship with climaxing, you know? So that might be where I would start personally, is like, what is my relationship with climaxing? Like, so for example, because I won't attempt to guess at your story, but for example, like I, for the longest time, because I struggle with like relaxing in sex and not being performative in sex. I have differing desires, you know, sometimes I'll feel really hot and heavy with one person and just not at all with somebody that I used to be hot and heavy with, like the ebb and flow of things, and there can be insecurity there. But specifically climaxing, I think I would get in my head about it should look a certain way, or it should, you know, be explosive. We should do it at the same time. I had, a feeling of like embarrassment at how I did it. There would be like past memories of like past partners who would shame me. Somebody was like upset that I wasn't louder one time. And I was like, oh shit, so now I should be louder, but like that's just not how I naturally react. You know what I mean? And so like, what is your relationship to this? And can you pull at that thread a little bit? Because that could all be helpful to look at, you know? And a big part of it, I mean, it sounds like you feel comfortable with your partner. But a big part of it for me was also partner choice. So I'm not saying that here, but like, getting with people that I could feel totally relaxed around to kind of play with trying different stuff or taking a risk, taking a leap of faith. I also don't want to, like, I personally don't want to pathologize only like coming with a toy. Like, if you only want to come with a toy, like some people just like being in charge. Some people just like being in the driver's seat, you know? And I just don't think that that's always a problem, but you clearly have distress around it. And so what's the distress? Is the distress new because he makes his partner climax or something? And even in that, like he can make his partner climax, he doesn't make you climax. Is there some shame in him that now you feel guilty, you know, at all? Or is there like just comparison of they're a better partner because they have better sex, quote unquote, because they climax and I don't? Like, what is the story your brain is telling you, and what pressures is it putting on you? That he can make his other partner orgasm but can't do the same with me. That is where I wonder, like, is there any language around like him doubting his ability? He can do this over there. He can't do that over here. When really there could be other things that just, that's not what your sex looks like. And maybe one day it will be what your sex looks like. But if there's a lot of stress and pressure and concentration and preoccupation, you're not going to come if that's where your head's at, right? It's going to make it worse, you know? And so like to relieve some of the pressure and say, it's okay. It's not an ability issue. It's just info. I wonder why our sex looks like this. I wonder why my relationship with coming feels private, or I'm the only one who knows how to do it, and maybe I haven't yet found words to guide other people to do it, you know? Maybe I don't trust another person to do it, or it's uncomfortable when they're giving to me and I just want it to be over faster, so I pretend, you know? Like, I'm just naming things that can go on for people. So all of that is good to know and talk about. The follow-up comment, I think a big part of it is resenting his other partner. Like, the language in my head is really putting her on a pedestal. Yeah, so if you're putting a person on a pedestal because they come with your partner, why? Why is that better? Why does that make them better? Is it because your partner feels better about himself? Is it because, like, all sex you've seen in porn or in movies has been like a climax, both of them come together, you know? Like, and so therefore that's what sex should be. That's, I think, like, why is that better? Says who? you know? Because I have had plenty of sex that like we start, we stop, we like play a little bit, we like get distracted. Like I've had sex that like I came and I didn't feel good, you know? Like climax isn't just like you win, you've done it, sex is over, you were good at it. Like climax is just one thing that can happen during sex, and it doesn't always feel good. Like it is a physical reaction, but like emotionally you could like feel less close afterwards. Sometimes people like come and then like the fog starts to go away and they're like, I am having a huge drop right now, you know? So it's like not an indicator of good. It is just something that happens sometimes. I think sex is about like fun and sometimes fantasy, but also sometimes just, hey, I like you. Let's be closer, you know? Let's feel a little closer together. It's not a race to win. Alrighty. Yeah, it's lovely to have this cozy chat with you. I'm really grateful. I'm just so grateful. I remain grateful to all of my paid patrons, because you're basically crowdsourcing my rent. You know, it's like Patreon just pays my rent, and that's how I can do everything I do, you know? So I'm grateful for your feedback and for your questions, and I hope that my work can be of service in return. So I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. I'll see you later. Alrighty. Bye-bye. Mwah.